And again, thank you, Rachel, for the tech support today. Awesome. So I'm not only your host today, but I'm also offering a teaching, a great joy for me. And some of you may recall last week I offered a teaching that was really focused on an idea of prospection, of being how we may be oriented towards the future. And today I want to touch upon actually memory and a way of remembering, not necessarily as about being connected to something in the past, but in the present moment experience of coming into a connection with an idea, an experience, and then bringing it into our lives. So conventionally, we think about memory as about the past, and in some ways it is, but memory is taking place in the present moment. In this week's Torah portion, Parshat Yitro, there's so much beautiful Torah to be bringing into our practice in this week's Parsha, as of course there is every week, but Yitro is a peak of that, which is of course an intended pun, as in this week's Torah portion we read about the revelation at Mount Sinai, and part of that revelation is the giving forth of these 10 utterances, as they're known in the Jewish tradition, the Aseret HaDibrot. And of course, one of those is connected with the commandment to keep Shabbat. And actually, it's to remember Shabbat. Rachel, could you please share the document? And there will be a link as well for those who want to access this source sheet. Thank you. And so I titled this brief teaching "As If," and we're going to come to that in a moment. That word is going to be a key concept in our practice and in exploring these words of Torah today. And so we're beginning here in Exodus chapter 20, and it says, "Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Zachor et Yom HaShabbat lekadsho." And so I think it's important to say that the first point is that the Torah is saying here, I think, that in order to experience the holiness of Shabbat, we have to remember it. So if it never comes into our awareness that it is Shabbat, then we won't have access to that holiness. We won't be able to come into that experience of holiness. Then the Torah continues, "Sheshet yamim tavod v'asita kol maltacha." So 6 days you will work, you shall labor, and do all of your work. And then verse 10, "V'yom hashvi'i Shabbat l'Adonai Elohecha lo taseh kol melacha," and it continues. "But the seventh day is the Sabbath of Adonai your God. You shall not do any work." These are words, this passage is traditionally part of the Kiddush, the blessings, the sanctification over the wine that we do on Shabbat lunch. And for an important purpose, which is that we are with Kiddush on Friday night and Saturday night. We are reminding ourselves of Shabbat. It's seen by the tradition as manifesting this idea of remembering Shabbat so that we can make it holy, so that we can experience its holiness. Yes, but how? How do we do that? How do we connect with it? And before we go any further, really want to underline that Jewish tradition is really keen to connect us with Shabbat every day of the week. And there's a lot to be said about that, the different ways that happens. But I want to, I'm going to bracket the exploration of why that is for now, but really wanted to bring that forth to affirm that even though today is Wednesday, we have the beautiful opportunity in our practice, whatever day of the week it is, to connect with a kind of Shabbat consciousness. And we can use this language that the Torah offers as a guide to accessing that. And that is what we will be doing in just a few moments, a few minutes. And so the next piece of the puzzle here comes from our great medieval commentator Rashi, who is picking up on this idea that, 6 days you're going to do your work, do all of your work. Kol melachtacha, the word kol means all, do all of your work. And then you go into Shabbat on the 7th. And I believe that Rashi was like us, and Rashi knew the reality was that the work is never completed. The to-do lists are never totally finished. The work in the world is never complete. And so Rashi has a very astute and wise comment here in which he says, Kshetavo Shabbat, yehe be'necha ke'ilu kol melachtecha asuya, shelo teharher achar malacha. When Shabbat comes, you should feel ke'ilu, as if all your work is done, so that you need not worry about it. And that word ke'ilu, as if, is doing really heavy lifting here in a beautiful way. Because Rashi is affirming that we never actually complete all our work, but we act. We have the possibility when Shabbat comes in to act as if all our work was done. What a beautiful, I know for me, liberating instruction this is. Because when I come into my meditation practice, after a breath of starting to settle, inevitably thoughts of the past, thoughts of the future come into my consciousness. I think about all the things that I need to do, the people that I'm worried about, the situations in the world that I'm desperately concerned about. And there's always the possibility that those voices will completely take over my ability to come into this moment, to receive this moment. And in fact, the idea is that the experience of Shabbat is a timeless moment. It's a present tense moment. The experience of Shabbat is not something that we have in the future, although we could, or that we have in the past by thinking about it, although maybe we did have it in the past. The invitation is to really come into it in this moment. But don't be fooled into thinking that that means that this moment is a static thing that stays the same. In our practice, we come into this moment as it continues to unfold. And it's really like in each moment, an experience of Shabbat that is receiving the fullness of this moment and resting in it and receiving the chayut, the life force of this moment, as our tradition teaches that we can receive on Shabbat. And in an experience of Shabbat, even on a Wednesday, even a little taste of Shabbat that we may have here today. And just real quickly, just want to touch on this last piece on our source sheet here before we go into our practice. And then, of course, we'll as we do, we'll go into meditation until a couple minutes before the hour. Here, 1 o'clock Eastern. We'll conclude our practice with Mourner's Kaddish, and then for those who are able to stick around for another 15 minutes, if you'd like to ask any questions or explore the practice more in that way, we'll have an opportunity then. But first, I want to look at Rabbi Shalom Noach Berezovsky, the Netivot Shalom, at the bottom of our page. And he's picking up on this conversation and what Rashi says, that the invitation to feel as if all my work is done, like to allow for that possibility of feeling that. I know it's not true. That's what as if means. I know it's not actually done. But by saying as if, it gives that permission to come into this moment. And so the Nitivot Shalom, the Slonim Rebbe, as he's also known, says that as the sages said, one needs to be on Shabbat as if all of one's work was done. This means that as soon as the Holy Shabbat enters, all thoughts of worry and matters from the past or of the future will go out from one's mind. As if, ke'ilu, kol melachtacha asuya mamash, as if all of one's work was done for real. Easier said than done, but that is what we're doing in our practice, is training. It's one of the things we're doing in our practice, is training in our capacity to be present, flush with this moment of life. And as we get pulled to the future or the past, as we will frequently, no problem. We notice that and we return our attention back. And we affirm that we can do this, that we have within us the possibility, that the inherent capacity of connecting with this moment of life. And even if we feel like we've never been able to really do that before, and just to conclude here with what our teacher, the Slonim Rebbe, says at the bottom of the page, and our tzaddikim explained all of one's work, kol melachtacha, to also include spiritual matters, meaning even if you feel like you haven't gotten to the level spiritually in which you feel like you can really rest in this present moment, maybe pretend like you can. Act as if even that spiritual work that you are engaged in, that's so beautiful to engage in, a path of growth and refinement. What would it be like for a few minutes to allow for the possibility that I've already completed that? I'm able to do this. I'm able to receive the richness of this moment, to refill myself, re-soul myself, so that after this practice, I can return back into my life with compassion and with stability. I'll ring a bell now and conclude our period with a bell. Returning over and over to this moment. Enjoy. We'll now seal our practice with Mourner's Kaddish. You're welcome to post in the chat if you'd like, anybody who you're especially holding in your heart in remembrance today. And if you'd like to, you'll be unmuted, or the ability to unmute. So if you'd like to join together and recite or respond to others reciting, please join us. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shmei Rabbah. Alma divrach yirteh v'yamlich malchuteh. V'chayechon u'vyomechon u'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. Hagala v'zman peri v'yirmeh. Amen.
Amen.
Yeh shlama Rabbah. Barach v'yishtabach v'yitbar v'noam v'naseh. V'tadar v'taleh v'talal shmei kushav. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata. Ushbechata v'nechmata damiran v'elma. Yeh shlama Rabbah min shmaya. Chaim aleinu v'al Yisrael. Amen. Say shalom. Uyase shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Yoshvei tevel.
Amen.
Amen. May all their memories be a blessing. Thank you again to Rachel for the tech support today. Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate it. Such a wonderful community of practice. And we invite you to join us again tomorrow, 12:30 Eastern Time. And again, if you'd like to stay around for another 15 minutes, we're going to have the opportunity to talk more about the practice. So again, thanks if you're leaving us, and see you soon. If you have any questions based on the practice today, please post it in the chat. And it's helpful for me if you write question in all caps. It'll just catch my eye more. Great. Here's one. What is the source of the Rashi, for the Rashi commentary on Exodus 20? Yeah, Rashi is building on an earlier midrash. It's actually I have the citation there in it's in the Mechilta, in the Hasidic text at the bottom of the page. It's quoted there, Rashi and Mechilta. So it's an earlier midrash that also picks up on this idea of kol milachtacha. That word kol, all, is to the rabbis of the Mishnah and the Talmud and the Midrash, that word was known as a ribui, which means something that is there to add more, to increase. So we could have had in the line in the Torah, in the Ten Commandments, v'asita milachtecha, and you did, and you'll do your work. I fell into it. But instead it says you'll do all your work. And so that word all, which you wouldn't really need unless it is coming to really bring in more than maybe obvious. And so the way that the Midrash understood it, and then Rashi picks up on it, is that what is this all that we are bringing in? That is really signaling this, like, it's like as if. Read all as if. So it comes to offer a more inclusive way of understanding, a larger way of relating to that idea of finishing your work. Okay. Looking at some more questions here. Do you think this as if practice is a preparation for death? Julie's question. It's a beautiful and important question. I think it is. There's a way in which it's a practice of letting go, and we can train in it in these small ways in our practice where the stakes are relatively low. mean, the stakes are our lives in a big way, but for now, like for today, the stakes are relatively low. Can I touch this experience and let go of my insistence on controlling the world and figuring everything out and finishing everything in order to really come into full contact with this moment? And so I think it can be an opportunity for training in that letting go, our final letting go as we prepare for the world to come. And that language of Olam Haba, the world, literally the world that is coming, is also a concept that is connected with Shabbat, that Shabbat is a taste of the world to come. And so in a number of different ways, our tradition connects these things. And so can I train in being present with this moment, knowing that all my work's not done, but I can act as if it is, so that I can really be at home in this moment and let go, and be not filled with anxiety that I haven't finished everything, but to be connected with a quality of presence and stability in this ever unfolding and flowing moment. So that's a quick response, but I think it's really worth exploring, and there's so much that we can that's worth receiving. I believe in seeing our meditation practice as an opportunity to train in how we die, how we prepare to let go. Great. So Mark puts a question. Will you speak to how us moderns, as moderns, we can frame our understanding of work in the context of Torah? Much of our work is not physical today. How do we learn to pause on the seventh day? Yeah, I think of work in this context as anything that I'm doing that is engaged in the work of trying to fix, create, figure out, build, like respond to. So I may be physically very relaxed, sitting in my chair at my desk. I'm not exerting myself and building a pyramid like a slave, but the work of engaging in this world is seen by our tradition as holy. That's another part of this, is that it does say 6 days a week you should work. And so the rabbis understand from that you can't have a life that is all Shabbat. That is not the goal, that you need a life that is both engaged in the world and trying to fix it and build it and work and harvest, etc. But then one day we're in have this other quality of being. And again, I think about this very much in terms of my daily meditation practice, that most of the day I'm, even though I'm not like laboring physically, I am working and trying to respond and figure out and plan. And I'm worried about people appropriately. I'm worried about the world appropriately. I'm trying to figure out how to be engaged in all of that. And so in my meditation practice, I'm cultivating a kind of a counterpoint to that, to further own the wholeness of this human life. As Jewish tradition affirms, it's not like 6 days are real or 6 days of the week are not real, and then the seventh day is real. Or 6 days are not important and only the seventh day is important. That's not the idea. That there are different ways of being in the world and we need them all. But it's important that we don't, it's very easy to only be in that space of doing, fixing, creating. And it has sort of nothing to do with physical exertion. It has everything to do with how our hearts and our minds are relating to the world around us and really relating to time itself. Hope that's helpful. With each of these, there's so much more to say, so hope that's helpful a little bit. Yeah. Can you please repeat the word you used to indicate a sort of future archaeology? Yeah, prospection. Yeah, look it up. It's an idea that comes in psychology, and it is the idea that perspection is to the future as memory is to the past. And so it's how do we orient ourselves towards the future? And you could see in the teaching of the Slonim Rebbe that we looked at today from the Nitivot Shalom, that he's saying, things are going to come in from the past. We're going to be, thinking about something that happened. And we're also going to be worried about something in the future. Whatever is happening, how we relate to the past or the future, we're coming into the present. When I taught about perspection last time, I was really trying to underline the sense that just like it's important to be intentional with the how we remember and relate to the past, it's also essential that we are intentional about how we relate to the future. And so there are also holy ways that we can harness this natural human tendency to be imagining the future in order to reframe our present moment. So I'm sure you can find that video if from that session if anybody is interested in finding more. Let's see. Okay, the question about flush, being flush in relationship to presence. The way, and it says, were you thinking of flush as in carpentry, as in two holes that consistently meet in contact, but stay separate? Or flush as Shabbat, as a time we can be imbued with presence, but ultimately just because we are human, cannot continue to exist in. Okay, so that language of being flush with our present moment experience, I first heard from my teacher, Rabbi Alan Liu of blessed memory, in the context of meditation. And he really used it in the way of, it's sort of like carpentry, where there's, imagine time is like a river that continues to flow. And when we bring our attention, when we pay attention to what's happening right now, it's like one snapshot, one moment is one snapshot of that river, but we know that river continues to flow. So to bring in meditation, to bring our attention into contact with what's happening right now is not a static state where you get it there and then it's like, oh, I'm there, I'm in the present moment, and that's it. Because the present moment is like that river, it continues to flow. So in order to keep attention flush with that present moment, the attention needs to keep flowing with the river. So it requires a bit of efforting and training to try to keep attention there. We expect that it won't do that for very long. And so that's where the teshuvah, that returning of awareness back to intention. Great. Yeah, there I see Lauren is putting a great comment about that. According to Jewish law, halachically, work, melacha, refers to really the creative actions. 39 understood traditionally acts, creative acts that were used in building the tabernacle, the Mishkan. There's much to say about this that I think is really interesting, that the two states are like Shabbat, where the tabernacle is complete and you're dwelling in it and with it, and building that tabernacle, which is the paradigm of like the creative work that we're doing. So beyond the scope of what we can touch right now, but I definitely want to encourage people to explore it further and to explore how it's connected to this practice. It's something I'm really interested in. Okay, great. And also, maybe I'll just close. There's so much good conversation in the chat here. I really appreciate it. And so much amazing wisdom in this group. I really love that. Uh, if it, and I actually have not read yet the Shabbat Effect. Oh, I see that's Alan Marinas' new book. I'm going to check that out. But I return frequently to The Sabbath by Abraham Joshua Heschel. Even if you've read it before, it's worth coming back to. Every page, I think, is just filled with a richness of wisdom that points towards not only Shabbat as the seventh day, but really a Jewish spiritual practice for connecting with really a Shabbat mind, a Shabbat heart, a Shabbat consciousness. So I often turn to that. And the question of how we translate that into our lived experience is one that it's not necessarily spelled out on the pages explicitly. So there's a bit of work that needs to be done to turn it into lived practice. Yeah. Yeah. Flush, I mean, in sync. Exactly. Amazing. I will act as if we answered all the questions. Grateful to you all. Really just so wonderful to be with you. And so many special people for me. I see you, Marilee, sending love your way, and to so many other people. Wonderful to be with you and to be continued. We will hope to see you soon. Again, thanks, Rachel, for the tech support today. Take care. Bye, everybody.